We are reading chapters 21 and 22, and you're listening for positive or negative social or environmental factors. Chapter 21 epigraph reads, "If your king has sent me presents, I am also a king, and this is my land. 8 days I will stay to receive them. Your father, Captain Newport, is to come to me, not I to him, nor yet to your fort. Neither I will bite at such a bait." Chief Powhatan quoted in William Symonds' The Proceedings. A lot of our epigraphs are from this book by this author, aren't they? And when we leave Samuel and Captain Smith, they are in Werowocomoco with the Powhatans. The Powhatans have treated them. They've been nice, but Smith and the others are still very nervous about King James's decree that Chief Powhatan is to become a prince, an English prince. And he says, "If you've sent me presents, just know I'm already a king and you're on my land. I'll come for 8 days. Captain Newport must come to me. I'm not coming to him, and I'm not coming to your fort, because that sounds like a terrible trap. It is morning when I see Wahunsanakak, the great Powhatan, for the first time. He is tall and imposing, strong and regal. He wears a necklace of a large piece of copper and many strings of beads. If copper and beads are the Powhatan gold and jewels, then he must truly be wealthy." Captain Smith delivers his message. "Will the great chief come to Jamestown to receive his gifts from King James?" I see immediately that Captain Smith was right. An emperor should not be invited to come to another town to receive gifts. Chief Powhatan's eyes flash with anger. "Your king has sent me presents?" he demands. "I also am a king, and this is my land." He splays his arms and fingers to show this is all his land. "I will wait here 8 days to receive the gifts. Captain Newport is to come to me, not I to him." On the hike back to Jamestown, Captain Smith stomps his anger into the woodland path. "They know nothing," he shouts. "Those Virginia Company investors sit in their velvet chairs and dream up what they want to accomplish here. They know nothing of the reality of what is here, and they're going to get us killed. They're idiots." I keep my eyes on the ground, and the soldiers do the same. None of us wants to say a word to Captain Smith when he is this angry. "Who ever heard of making an emperor into a prince?" he continues. Yet that is what they are trying to do. An emperor, kings, always outrank the princes. So the emperor and king would have more power than a prince. He kicks a fallen branch out of his way. "No good will come of this. Mark my words, no good at all." Back in Jamestown, Captain Smith delivers Chief Powhatan's message. Captain Newport frowns, but he is still determined to obey the orders from the Virginia Company. Chief Powhatan must be crowned a prince under the Chief Powhatan. Chief Powhatan must be crowned a prince under King James. Captain Newport says he will travel to Werowocomoco to accomplish this task. Though the trip is only 12 miles across land, it is much longer by boat. Powhatan's gifts, an English bed, furniture, a copper pot, a wash basin and pitcher, a red cloak, shoes, and that troublesome crown are loaded onto a barge for the 100-mile trip down the James River, or the Powhatan River, depending on who you're talking to, into the Chesapeake Bay, and up to the Pamunkey River to Werowocomoco. Captain Newport and his men returned from the coronation a week later. Captain Smith does not even ask them how it all went. He is still fuming. The soldiers who were there tell us the story. Chief Powhatan was asked to kneel to receive his crown. He pretended to not understand. Captain Newport demonstrated the kneeling over and over until he looked like a marionette on strings, and people began to snicker. Still, Chief Powhatan acted as if he did not understand. He absolutely would not kneel. Captain Smith nods smugly when he hears this. He understood perfectly, he says, and he refused to lower himself. Finally, Captain Newport ordered 2 soldiers to push down hard on Chief Powhatan's soldiers. This made the chief take one quick, tripping step, and in that moment they placed the crown on his head. Then they shot off a round of musket fire to celebrate. Chief Powhatan was now officially a subject of King James I of England. He is happy with his new position, Captain Newport says. He gave me his mantle as a gift in return. But another soldier fills us in on the rest. He gave the mantle, and it is a beauty, because he really liked the bed and wash basin, copper pot, and whatnot. But do you know what else he gave Captain Newport? A pair of worn-out, sweaty, smelly old moccasins. I'll bet he spit in them too. That's what he thinks of that crown. Let me tell you, Chief Powhatan is a proud emperor. He does not want to be a prince under King James. Especially not after what he has heard from Namontack, that King James is a short, flabby, weak man with no teeth and the strongest body odor in London. I have a bad feeling in the pit of my stomach. Is that foreshadowing? It has all been a big mistake, a mistake we cannot undo. What will happen now? I ask Captain Smith. Trouble, he says, his anger smoldering. Trouble that we will have to bear, while the fools who gave these orders sit in their comfortable homes in London, and while Captain Newport sails safely back to England. The first thing we get is not trouble, but a wedding. Anne has permission to marry, and she has said yes to John Leyden. I'm convinced she has made a good choice. One night when it rained so hard all of our cabins were flooding, John Leyden was outside Master and Mistress Forrest's cabin, where Anne lives, digging a trench instead of trying to save his own cabin from the flood. I believe he will be a good husband to her. We gather in the chapel, Anne in her burgundy Sunday petticoat and yellow bodice, John in his just-washed shirt with a blue doublet. Reverend Hunt performs the service, and we have a good meal afterward, with several chickens sacrificed for the celebration. The trees surround us with their fall leaves and blazes of red and orange and yellow, as if they, too, are celebrating the first English wedding in the New World. Reverend Hunt is in good spirits for the wedding, but he has been feeling poorly, off and on, for months now. It is as if the summer sickness never left him. He has headaches and fevers that sometimes send him to bed. A few days after the wedding, Reverend Hunt takes to his bed again. Richard takes good care of him, but I also check in on him to see if he needs water or food or other comfort. I wonder if there's some food or herb or medicine that I can bring him that will heal him this time, the way the eggs and meat and wine healed him before. One day when I check on him, he asks me for some water. His hands shake as he takes the goblet from me. He drinks, then looks me in the eye. Samuel, you will not always be a servant, he says. You will do something far greater than that. I'm surprised by this sudden announcement. I shake my head. I'm an orphan, the son of dead peasants. Of course, I will always be a servant. What else could I be, I wonder? You must learn what you see around you, he says. Learn from Captain Smith, President Smith. Do you know why he is well liked as president, while President Wingfield and President Ratcliffe are not? I know the answer because I've already thought about it. It's because Captain Smith cares about all of us, I say. The other leaders cared only for their own comfort and their own gain, and the gain for a few of their friends. Reverend Hunt nods. Good, you're already learning. This is important for you to remember because I will not always be here to remind you. He lies back down and closes his eyes. But if I will not always be a servant, what will I be? I ask. Could I become a soldier? Even an officer like Captain Smith? Reverend Hunt smiles with his eyes closed. You will see, he says. Remember what we have talked about here. And remember that you will always know the right decision because it is when you choose from love. He looks as if he's talked enough. I take a rag, wring it out in a bowl of cool water, and lay it on his forehead. He's so pale and seems so weak. It is the worst I've seen him. My chest feels heavy with sadness. Reverend Hunt was the first person I opened my heart to after it was closed up tight when my mom died. I can't stand to see life slipping away from him like this. I wonder if I might lay hands on his head and pray, but keep his soul from leaving his body, the way he did for me many months ago. But I realize if God's ready to take Reverend Hunt up to heaven, it's not my business to try to stop him. Would you like some supper? I ask Reverend Hunt quietly. He shakes his head slightly. I touch his hand and leave him to rest. Reverend Hunt does not leave his bed again. Richard and I keep a vigil, one or the other of us, checking on him each hour. Finally, he stops asking for food or water and wants only to lie still. I know it's my last chance to speak to him. I go in the evening, light a candle, and kneel by his bed. Reverend Hunt, I whisper. He opens his eyes for a moment and nods. I know he's listening. What do I want to say? Don't leave. Please stay. Pray for another miracle. I shake my head to stop these thoughts. He is leaving, I tell myself firmly. You can't stop it. Reverend Hunt, thank you for teaching me, I say. I force myself to talk past the lump in my throat. Thank you for treating me like I was worth something. The day we bury Reverend Hunt, it is rainy and cold. My feet sink into the mud at the graveside. Richard stands with me, both of us silent. They shoot off the cannons in Reverend Hunt's honor. A great man has gone to his reward in heaven. Captain Chapter 22 Epigraph says, Captain Smith, you shall find Powhatan to use you kindly, but trust him not, for he hath sent for you only to cut your throats. This is the chief of the Warraskoyaks. All right, Pen. Quoted in that same book, William Simmons, The Proceedings. Oh, Pen. Are you going to help me read, Pen? Yeah. Okay, I thought you were. So this is the chief of the Warraskoyaks. So this is not. Chapter 22, epigraph reads, Captain Smith, you shall find Powhatan to use you kindly, but trust him not, for he hath sent for you only to cut your throats. This is from the chief of the Warraskoyaks, so a different tribe, quoted in that same book, William Simmons, his book, The Proceedings. Our trouble starts when winter sets in. If we had more skilled farmers and hunters, if we all worked at farming and hunting, we might be able to produce enough food to get us through the winter. But as it is, our men are kept busy searching for gold, digging sassafras, and making clapboard, glass, pitch, tar, and soap ashes to ship back to England, in the hopes that something in the lot will make a profit for the Virginia Company. And to make things worse, when Captain Newport leaves in December, he takes a lot of our food stores with him, saying he and his sailors will need them for the long voyage home. At least he takes Captain Ratcliffe as well and rids us of him. When our barrels are close to empty, Captain Smith goes to trade with the natives for grain, but he comes back empty-handed. Chief Powhatan has commanded all of his tribes to not trade with us. He is wielding his power, says Captain Smith, who is showing us that the crowning ceremony angered him, and that is what his power is not, and his power is not diminished by it. We will see what else he plans to do. We are allowed 1 cup of grain per person each day. I am always hungry. I often think of the feast at Werowocomoco and wish I was there again. Richard and I dig up sassafras roots to chew on to ease our hunger. Then we talk about food, trying to use our minds to fill our bellies. My mum used to make Yorkshire pudding at Christmas time, I say, with the crust just a little brown and loads of gravy. Richard closes his eyes, imagining. And remember All Saints' Day at the orphanage, when we had stew with enough meat in it so that everyone got some? We talk about the birds and fish we roasted on Nevis, and I tell him again about the mounds of peas, squash, and venison at the Werowocomoco feast. Soon our jaws are tired from chewing on the sassafras root, and for a time our bellies are fooled into thinking we have eaten. Then one day we have good news, or what seems like good news. 2 natives arrive to tell us that Chief Powhatan is ready to trade. He will give us food if we bring him what he wants: a grindstone, a rooster and a hen, copper, beads, 50 swords, several muskets, and workmen to build him an English-style house. He knows we are hungry enough that Captain Smith might well give him all he wants, including the weapons. President Smith rubs his forehead and says quietly, "We are desperate for the food." To the messengers in Algonquian, he says, "Tell Chief Powhatan we come, give things he wants." But as messengers walk away, in English, he says, "Except the guns and swords. I will throw in some extra gifts instead." I smile. Watching the battle of wills between Captain Smith and Chief Powhatan is like watching the dance of a sword fight between 2 proud, powerful men. We load up 2 barges and the Discovery for the trip to Werowocomoco. We hope to bring all 3 of the vessels back laden with food. The first night we stop at the Waraskoyak village and are welcomed as guests. Chief Sasinticum shares his pipe of tobacco with Captain Smith and shares some advice as well. I listen hard to understand the Algonquian words. "Chief Powhatan will treat you kindly, but do not trust him," he says. "He has sent for you only to slit your throats." Captain Smith does not seem surprised, and I realize he has already guessed that this might be a trap. "We keep guns ready," he says in his choppy Algonquian. Then he looks at me. "I leave boy with you?" he asks Chief Sasenticum. "I send messenger to him. If I dead, boy go to Jamestown. Tell others." This chills me to my bones. I want to object, to tell Captain Smith not to go. Why is he willingly walking into a trap? "We are surviving on our grain," I want to tell him. "Captain Newport will be back soon. Let us all return to Jamestown tomorrow and wait for the supply ship." But I don't say anything. It's not my place. Chief Sasenticum agrees. Captain Smith and the other men will go on to Werowocomoco in the morning. I will stay in the Waraskoyak village and wait. If Captain Smith is killed, I will return to Jamestown to bring the news. The next morning, I watch the Discovery sail away with Captain Smith at her helm. I wonder if it will be the last time I see him. I push down sadness. I've already lost Reverend Hunt. I don't want to lose Captain Smith as well. I tell myself that he is wily and smart and will not easily fall into Chief Powhatan's trap. The Woroskoyak village is a busy place, and I want to do my share of the work. But when I try to help two girls with pounding of corn in their meal, Kainta, Chief Sasenticum's son, pulls me away. That work is for the women to do, he says. I will show you men's work. He takes me into the forest. There is a thin layer of snow on the dead leaves, and my feet crunch loudly on them. He stops, looks at me, frowning. You are very loud, he says. He inspects my shoes. My mother will make you moccasins. He looks around, finds a sapling that seems to be just right for what he is searching for, and cuts it down with his hatchet. I will teach you how to make a bow and arrows, he says. Working with wood and stone is a good way to keep my mind off of what might be happening to Captain Smith. Kainta teaches me how to peel the bark off the sapling, cut notches for the bowstring, and string it with strong gut. We make several arrow shafts from straight thin wood. He shows me how to make an arrowhead, chipping a piece of rock until it is the right shape. It is a slow process, and I ruin several pieces of rock before I get it right. But finally, I'm able to make my first arrowhead. Then I tie it to a shaft and balance the shaft with feathers so that it will shoot straight. When we grow hungry, we go to the communal cook fire. There we find a large clay pot filled with hominy and venison stew, fish on the grill, and bed breaking in the hot ashes on the ground. Eat, says Kainta. He tears off a piece of bread and uses an oyster shell to scoop stew right out of the pot. I do the same. It is delicious. This is what I have seen people do all day, just come up to the pot and take what they want to eat. I realize they have no meal times, no rationing of food, and I think that these Powhatan people must be the wealthiest people on earth. A young woman comes to put a new loaf of bread in the ashes and to stir the pot of stew. She wears a kind of apron made of deerskin that hangs down to her knees. Her arms, face, and legs have colorful tattoos of patterns, flowers, fruits, and snakes. Her black hair is plaited into one long braid hanging down to her hips. She smiles shyly at me. How strange I must look to her in my English clothes. No messenger comes that day or the next. I don't know if this is good news or bad. I have no choice but to wait. At sunrise, I go with Kainta down to the river where he bathes in the frigid water. I stay, shivering, on the shore. Kainta sprinkles a bit of tobacco on the river, closes his eyes, and lifts his hands, and I know that he's praying. This is what Nemontak did each morning when he lived with us in Jamestown. The days go by, and I learn more about men's work, which is mostly hunting and fishing. I'm also careful to learn which chores are women's work so that I will not embarrass myself again by trying to do any of it. Planting, weeding, harvesting, making clay pots, cooking, making clothes. It is all for the girls and women to do. Kainta teaches me how to make a knife by chipping a piece of rock until it is sharp, then tying it with gut onto a short stick. He gives me a buckskin pouch and shows me how to hang it from my waist with a leather strap. My knife fits nicely inside. I continue to make my arrows, chipping the arrowheads and tying the feathers until I have enough to go hunting. Kainta shows me how to weave a case so that I can carry my arrows on my back. He has me practice with my bows and arrows and a target until I can shoot straight. It snows. Kainta says this will make hunting even easier because we will see animals' tracks in the snow. I have my new moccasins and I walk carefully, heel to toe, the way he has shown me, trying to be as silent as he is. I am concentrating so hard that at first I do not notice someone else who has been walking quietly in the forest. Then suddenly I look up and see him. Nemontak! I cry out. I'm very glad to see him. Then when I realize why he has come, I am filled with fear. He is the messenger from Werowocomoco. I stand gripping my bow, waiting for the bad news. Nemontak smiles. Do not look so worried, Samuel. Your master sends good wishes. I groan with relief. Then I am confused. Why have you come, and not Captain Smith? I ask him in English. He answers me in Algonquin. I'm in his world now. Captain Smith says you will stay with the Warraskoyaks through winter. You will learn more of the language and eat well. Kainta joins us. He and Nemontak exchange the greeting of countrymen. With one fist, each taps first his own chest, then forehead, then taps the other boy's chest and forehead. Come, says Kainta. You must be hungry after your journey. We will hunt later. We sit with Nemontak at the communal cook fire as he eats. I form my question in Algonquian. Chief Powhatan make trap? I ask him. Now that I've heard the good news, I'm ready to hear the whole story. Yes, Nemontak says, but your werowance is quick as a rabbit. The trap did not catch him. He grins. He likes Captain Smith as much as I do. In between mouthfuls, Nemontak tells us what happened. Captain Smith and his men arrived in Werowocomoco and were treated kindly. They traded for lots of corn, but by the time their boats were loaded up, the tide was out and the boats couldn't move. They had to spend the night in Werowocomoco, staying in one of the houses. Just after dark, Captain Smith heard a sound at the door. It was Pocahontas. Her eyes were wide with terror. You must go, she said. In a little while my father's men will bring you food. As soon as you put your weapons down and begin to eat, they will slit your throats with your own swords. And if they don't succeed, there will be a bigger attack later. She begged them to leave right away. She was crying. She knew that if she was caught warning Captain Smith, that her father would put her to death. She may have been play-acting the first time, I think, but this time she really did risk her life to save Captain Smith. The tide was too low. The tide was too low for them to leave. Within an hour, 10 strong warriors came in with platters of food, just like Pocahontas had said they would. The warriors said the slow matches on the Englishmen's guns were smoking up the room, making them sick, and that they should just put them out. But Captain Smith just said, "Oh, we don't mind the smoke." And then he made all the warriors taste all of the food to make sure it wasn't poisoned. Captain Smith and his men ate their supper with their guns smoldering and ready. And later, big attack? I ask. Nemontak tells us how the Englishmen kept up a guard half the night, standing with their muskets ready. There never was an attack. At midnight, the tide had risen enough to move the boats, and they left. So Captain Smith and his men are safe, and they have taken corn back to Jamestown. Thank you. Good news, I say to Nemontak. It has begun to snow again, and Nemontak has invited to stay the night. He sleeps in the family house with Kainta and me. The next day, the three of us go hunting. We walk quietly through the white forest, stalking rabbits. We see one. Even I have been quiet enough not to startle it. Kainta and Nemontak both look at me. They want me to shoot, to have a chance to make my first kill. Silently, I pull out an arrow and string it in my bow. I make my breath even and slow so that it will not affect my shot. I watch the rabbit as it hops along the undergrowth, looking for food. I pull back the bowstring and aim. Then I let the arrow fly. There is a whoosh and thud. The arrow hits its mark. The hare lies still. Blood seeps out where my arrow has entered its side, staining the snow bright red. Kainta claps me on the back. You have learned well, he says. I am still amazed at what I have done. Go, take your prize, and give thanks to the god Okias for your meat, says Nemontak. I tie the rabbit's hind feet to a piece of gut and hang it around my waist. We hunt some more, and the other two boys also get rabbits. The winter day is short. When the sun sinks down, casting long shadows over glittering snow, it's time to return to the village. I use my knife to cut open the rabbit's abdomen and clean out its entrails, and to peel the rabbit's skin away from the meat. My rabbit, which I have killed myself with a weapon I made myself, becomes part of the communal stew that evening. It makes me feel proud and strong. Nemuntak goes home to Werowokomoko, and I stay at the Waraskoyak village, as Captain Smith has prescribed. Kainta and I do more hunting. He shakes his head when he sees me trying to keep my hair, which is getting quite long, out of my way. He asks his mother to cut my hair for me. She takes 2 mussel shells and grates away the hair on the right side of my head down to the scalp. It pinches and pulls, but I keep still. On the left side she leaves it long, and she cuts a ridge of short hair down the middle, so that my hair looks very much like the other men and boys. "There," says Kainta, "now it will not get caught on your bowstring." When the winds of February blow cold, I wear a mantle of deerskin. During the March thaw, I kill my first wild turkey. Kainta ties 2 of its feathers into the long side of my hair. In late April, when the mosquitoes, flies, and gnats come out, Kainta shows me how a layer of bear grease mixed with a powder of red puccoon root keeps the bugs away. It also makes my skin red. I no longer look very much like an English boy. One day we're playing a game that is very much like English football. We have a goal at each end of a field, and we kick a ball made of skins, trying to score by kicking the ball into the other team's goal. I have finally gotten tired of sweating in my slops and long-sleeved shirt during these games, and have let Kainta's sister make me a buckskin breechcloth to wear. The red puccoon dye protects my back, chest, arms, and legs from insects and the burning of the sun, and my moccasins protect my feet for running. The right side of my hair has been newly shaved by Kainta's mother, and the left side of my hair is quite long, almost to my shoulder. I've added a few shells to the feathers as ornaments. As we play, I hear a call of "Wengapo," spoken with an English accent. I stop running. I have almost forgotten what English speech sounds like. What I see takes my breath away. It is Richard, Nathaniel, Henry, Abram, and several others. They look thin and wan. They are walking toward us. Richard calls out, speaking Algonquian as if he has memorized just what to say. "Captain Smith send. Need eat. Find English boy, Samuel." I sputter. "Richard," I call to him. "It's me." Richard's eyes go wide and his mouth drops open. "By God, he's turned into a savage," Henry says. I ignore Henry and go to greet Richard and the others. The Indian boys gather around us. "Are you here to bring me back?" I ask, still not understanding why they have come. Richard shakes his head. "We are here to stay for a while to eat. Rats got into the grain. There were so many of them it looked like maggots squirming in the barrels. We have almost nothing left. So President Smith has sent us different places. He sent he sent up the river to live on oysters, some down the river to Point Comfort to live on fish, some to friendly tribes. We got sent here. We have copper to pay for our way." I translate as best I can for Kainta. He nods and says he will go tell his father that they are here. "So," Richard eyes me curiously, "did that stuff just get stuck in your hair, or did you put it there on purpose?" I sock him playfully in the arm, and we both laugh. I think of how I want to teach him what I've learned, how to make snares to catch beavers, otters, and squirrels, how to build a fire in a canoe at night so the fish will be mesmerized and come close so we can spear them, how to find mushrooms and roots and berries that are good to eat. I know that with the knowledge I've gained from living with the Waraskoyaks, we don't ever have to be hungry again.